Welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
Yeah, we have a really great discussion lined up today.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And today's content actually comes directly from a SpeakDuo lesson. By the way, if you want to put these phrases into practice, you can go to SpeakDuo.com to meet new people from around the world practicing English on video calls to become more confident with your speaking abilities.
It's an incredible resource, honestly.
Truly. And today is strictly for you advanced English learners out there who really want to elevate that fluency. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So it is an interesting challenge when you reach an advanced level because, you already have the functional vocabulary to survive.
Like you could easily give a presentation or order a coffee.
Exactly. You can get by. But surviving isn't thriving. Thriving in an English-speaking environment, particularly in a professional setting, means mastering the idioms that add vivid, specific imagery to your speech. It is about cultural fluency, not just, dictionary definitions.
I've always felt the modern workplace is kind of the ultimate testing ground for that cultural fluency.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's look at the language of capacity and panic. Because I used to just say, I'm super busy in meetings, but I notice senior managers usually say something like, I have my plate full right now.
Yes.
Is there a psychological reason for that shift, or is it just like corporate jargon?
Well, it is highly strategic, actually. Think about what saying I'm busy communicates.
Right.
It is abstract, and frankly, it often sounds a bit like a complaint or an excuse.
Yeah.
But having your plate full is a visual metaphor.
A visual metaphor.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you're at a buffet. You have piled on the potatoes, the salad, the main course. If anyone tries to hand you one more thing, it is literally going to spill over onto the floor.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So it communicates maximum capacity without sounding negative.
That makes a lot of sense. It is not just about time. It is about physical and mental bandwidth. If I am chatting with my boss about a colleague who is struggling, instead of just saying she is very busy, I could say, well, with the new project and her family obligations, she definitely had her plate full.
Right.
It instantly generates empathy because everyone knows what a precarious, overpiled plate feels like.
Exactly. And it softens the statement while actually making the severity of her workload much clearer to the boss.
Okay, right. Now, when that plate does inevitably spill over, people often find themselves in a state.
Yes, they do.
And I have to admit, for a long time, I thought this was just a synonym for being upset. Is it?
Not quite, no. If you say he is upset, you are describing an internal emotion.
Right.
It could be quiet, it could be completely hidden. But if you say someone is in a state, it specifically implies a visible, frantic disorganization.
Visible chaos.
Exactly. You can physically see the chaos. They might be pacing. Their hair might be a mess. They are aggressively digging through their bag. It is an observable condition.
That distinction is perfect for like an IELTS Part 2 scenario.
Oh, definitely.
Because if you're asked to describe a stressful situation, saying I was upset is just a bit flat.
Yeah.
But if you say, I was in a state the morning of my exam because I couldn't find my notes, you are painting a vivid picture for the examiner of you literally tearing your room apart.
That is exactly it. And when you are in that frantic condition, it's very often because you are desperately trying to reach someone or locate something important. Which brings us to the next idiom, to get hold of.
But get hold of something or someone.
Right.
This means to obtain, find, or contact them. But again, there is a nuance here, right? Because if I just say, I contacted the manager, it sounds incredibly smooth.
It implies a simple transaction, yes. Getting hold of implies a barrier.
A barrier.
It implies effort. You are metaphorically trying to grab something that is slipping through your fingers. If you tell a colleague, I tried to get hold of the report before the meeting, but the office was closed, you're highlighting the struggle.
Even for something totally mundane, like I've been trying to get hold of a spare charger all morning. It tells the listener that you didn't just ask once. You have been actively hunting for it.
Which perfectly sets up the kind of logistical hurdles we all face. What happens when your logistics completely fail and you cannot get hold of your usual transportation? Well, you might have to hitch a lift.
Okay, I have to push back a little here.
Yeah.
Hitching a lift sounds a bit dangerous to me. Like hitchhiking. Standing on the side of a highway with your thumb out, is that really something you would say in a corporate context?
I completely understand the hesitation, but hitchhiking is different. In conversational English, hitching a lift simply means snagging an informal free ride.
Okay.
Compare it to taking a taxi or carpooling. A taxi is a commercial transaction, Carpooling is a prearranged, organized system. Hitching a lift is highly opportunistic and often a last resort when public transport has failed you.
Ah, okay, so it is spontaneous.
Exactly.
Like, we hitched a lift with a colleague to the conference. You didn't plan it, but your train was canceled. You saw Dave from accounting pulling out of the parking lot, and you waved him down.
Yep.
It shows resourcefulness rather than poor planning.
Precisely. Now, moving from individual logistics to team dynamics, we enter the realm of solidarity and de-escalation.
Okay.
Let's look at the phrase "in the same boat," meaning sharing the same difficult situation with others.
I feel like this is one of the most common idioms out there. But, why use a boat? Why not just say, we have a shared problem?
Well, the element of shared peril is what's important here. A shared problem could be anything. Maybe we both got a parking ticket.
Right.
But a boat is an enclosed environment surrounded by water. If the boat sinks, we both sink. The idiom specifically emphasizes solidarity during a crisis, not just a casual shared inconvenience.
That shared peril changes the tone entirely.
It really does.
So saying, during the busy season at work, we were all in the same boat, so we supported each other, isn't just saying we were all busy.
No.
It is saying we were navigating rough waters together. And if one person stopped rowing, we all failed.
Exactly. Though, of course, even when people are in the same boat, tight quarters and high stress mean tensions inevitably flare up.
Naturally.
Which leads us to the phrase, to let things cool down, meaning waiting for strong emotions to lessen before acting.
We use temperature metaphors a lot in English for emotions, don't we? Like boiling point or hot under the collar.
We do. We culturally and biologically associate anger with physical heat. Adrenaline spikes, people get red in the face, they sweat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So to let things cool down actively acknowledges that the current environment is literally too hot for rational decision-making. It is a strategic de-escalation.
That is a brilliant phrase to keep in your back pocket for an IELTS speaking test, especially if you are answering a question about handling workplace conflict.
Oh, absolutely.
You could say, if a meeting becomes heated, it's best to let things cool down and continue later. It demonstrates high emotional intelligence alongside advanced vocabulary.
And once the temperature drops and things cool down, someone usually has to step up and put in maximum effort to repair the situation.
They have to bend over backwards, trying extremely hard to help or please someone.
I hear this and think, isn't that just a colorful way of saying going the extra mile?
Not quite. Going the extra mile implies moving forward, doing more of what you're already doing. It is an extension of normal effort.
Okay.
What's fascinating here is how the physical imagery of contorting your spine reflects extreme personal sacrifice. Bending over backwards implies a completely unnatural, almost painful posture. You are compromising your own well-being, your spine, literally, to accommodate someone else.
Like a gymnast contorting themselves.
Yes.
That paints a much more intense picture. So if I say, the team bent over backwards to finish the project on time for the client, I'm signaling that we went way beyond normal professional expectations.
Exactly.
We sacrificed our weekends and our sleep.
Yes. Or in your personal life, I bent over backwards last week to help a friend move apartments. It conveys a level of dedication that borders on self-sacrifice.
Naturally, we want to avoid situations where we have to bend over backwards.
The best way to do that is by anticipating the future. Let's shift to the language of foresight, starting with being one step ahead.
Meaning to be slightly better prepared or more advanced than someone else.
Is the nuance here about competition?
It is about motion and anticipation. Being prepared is static. You pack an umbrella, you are prepared.
Right.
Being one step ahead implies you are actively walking ahead of the problem or the competition. You are anticipating surprises before they even materialize.
Oh, I see. Like, I keep a to-do list and review deadlines, so I'm one step ahead of any surprises.
Yeah.
You aren't just reacting to life. You are actively outmaneuvering it.
And if you manage to maintain that vantage point, you usually know what is coming next. You know what is in the offing.
In the offing.
Yes. This means likely to happen soon or expected.
I've always wondered about this one. In the offing. It sounds almost Victorian. What exactly is an offing?
It is a centuries-old nautical term. The offing is the most distant part of the sea that is visible from the shore, right before the horizon.
Oh, wow.
So if a ship is in the offing, you can literally see it coming toward you, even if it hasn't arrived at the port yet.
That is fascinating. So it is not a guess. It is something concrete and visible on the horizon.
Exactly.
Which explains why you wouldn't say lunch is in the offing.
Yeah.
You use it for structural, official things. With the contract signed, a promotion seemed to be in the offing.
Precisely. It carries weight. It implies you have the strategic vision to see the ship approaching.
Ideally, the new projects that are in the offing are perfectly suited to you. Which brings us to right up my street.
Exactly the kind of thing someone likes or is good at.
Right.
I often hear learners default to, I like it or I am good at it. But right up my street connects your skills to your native territory. Think about the street you grew up on.
Yeah. You know every crack in the pavement.
Exactly. If a task is right up your street, it falls perfectly into your zone of absolute comfort and expertise.
Like organizing events is right up my street, so I volunteer to help whenever I can. It sounds so much more natural than just saying, I am an expert at event planning.
It really does.
But there is a danger here. When something is right up your street, you might get a little too invested, and you might get carried away.
Becoming too excited and going beyond what is appropriate.
Where is the line between being really enthusiastic and getting carried away?
It is all about grounding. Being enthusiastic means you are energized but still in control.
Okay.
Getting carried away invokes the physical sensation of being swept up by a strong current or wave. You literally lose your footing. Your emotions carry you away from common sense.
Oh, that is a great visual. Like, I sometimes get carried away planning trips and book too many activities.
Yes.
You started with genuine enthusiasm, but the current took you. You scheduled a museum tour for 6:00 a.m., and you completely ruined the vacation.
Exactly. You lost the broader perspective.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Because despite staying one step ahead, and despite tracking what is in the offing, life will still throw absolute shockers at you.
Oh, always.
And that can strike someone dumb.
To shock someone so much they cannot speak.
This feels highly dramatic.
It is. Compared to just surprising someone, this idiom emphasizes a literal or figurative paralysis of your vocal cords.
Wow.
The sheer force of the shock has disabled your physical ability to form words.
So if I suddenly won a big prize, it would probably strike me dumb for a few moments.
Right.
It perfectly captures that open-mouthed, stunned silence where your brain simply cannot process the data fast enough to speak.
It is a powerful, evocative way to describe an intense reaction.
All right, well, we have explored an incredible list of advanced vocabulary today, moving from capacity and chaos to foresight and shock. Now it is time to put your active recall to the test with our scenario quiz.
Active recall is genuinely the best way to move these phrases from your passive understanding, where you just recognize them, into your active speaking vocabulary.
Exactly. Here's how this will work. I'm going to read a complex scenario featuring one of the idioms we just discussed, followed by 3 highly detailed options, A, B, and C. I'll read the options, and you can feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. Then my co-host will immediately reveal the correct choice, repeat the phrase, and remind you of the original example we used earlier to really lock the concept into your memory.
Ready. Let's jump in.
Question number 1. Despite trying continuously for 3 hours, the ambitious reporter couldn't get hold of the politician, meaning she couldn't. Option A, successfully negotiate a highly lucrative exclusive contract involving significant national television broadcasting rights. Option B, successfully obtain the necessary contact information or physically find the specific individual required. Or Option C, completely understand the incredibly complicated political strategies deliberately hidden within the new legislation. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct choice is option B. To get hold of means she couldn't successfully obtain the necessary contact information or physically find the specific individual required. Remember the earlier example about trying to get hold of the report before the closed office or struggling to get hold of a spare charger? It implies a physical or logistical barrier to access.
Spot on. Let's look at the next one. Question number 2. After completely losing her crucial presentation documents, the executive was entirely in a state, indicating she was, option A, surprisingly calm and highly prepared to immediately deliver an improvised speech from pure memory. Option B, actively searching for highly complicated and intensely regulated alternative corporate financial investment strategies. Or option C, extremely upset, intensely nervous, completely disorganized, and remarkably emotionally unsettled about the situation. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is option C. Being in a state means she was extremely upset, intensely nervous, completely disorganized, and remarkably emotionally unsettled about the situation. Think back to the frantic exam morning example we discussed, where a student was in a state because they couldn't find their notes. It is a visible chaos.
Moving right along to question number 3. The dedicated customer service representative essentially bent over backwards to resolve the complaint, meaning he, option A, tried extremely hard and exerted tremendous personal effort to successfully help the dissatisfied client. Option B, intentionally ignored the incredibly frustrating and highly complicated demands made by the angry individual. Or option C, officially requested an immediate managerial intervention to strictly enforce the established corporate return policies. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct answer is option A. When someone has bent over backwards, they have tried extremely hard and exerted tremendous personal effort to successfully help the dissatisfied client. This is just like the example of when you bent over backwards to help a friend move apartments. It is about that near painful level of extra effort, contorting yourself for someone else.
A literal contortion for someone else's benefit.
Yep.
Okay, here is question number 4. The completely unexpected announcement of her massive promotion managed to strike her dumb, meaning it managed to, option A, significantly increase her daily administrative workload without providing any adequate additional financial compensation whatsoever. Option B, thoroughly shock and completely surprise her so much that she was entirely unable to speak. Or option C, deeply offend her by intentionally ignoring her numerous previous highly valuable professional corporate contributions. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct choice is option B. To strike her dumb means to thoroughly shock and completely surprise her so much that she was entirely unable to speak. Just like the example we talked about where winning an unexpected award would strike someone dumb so they couldn't even say thank you at first, the sheer shock temporarily takes away their words.
Excellent. Question number 5. With the incredibly lucrative merger finalized, a massive corporate restructuring was clearly in the offing, signifying it was, option A, highly likely to happen quite soon, and generally expected within the immediate near future. Option B, officially canceled by the incredibly demanding and highly conservative International Executive Management Review Board. Or option C, strictly prohibited by the severely complicated federal financial regulations governing modern international trade agreements. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
Option A is the answer here. If something is in the offing, it is highly likely to happen quite soon and generally expected within the immediate near future. This reflects our earlier discussion about the nautical horizon, where, after a contract is signed, a big promotion seems to be in the offing. It is about anticipating official, structural changes coming toward you.
2 more left. You've got this. Question number 6. By thoroughly analyzing the emerging global market trends, the brilliant entrepreneur remained one step ahead, meaning she was, option A, completely disconnected from the incredibly rapid and highly unpredictable daily technological industry fluctuation cycles. Option B, heavily reliant upon entirely outdated and completely unverified historical financial data reporting analysis methods. Or option C, slightly better prepared and significantly more advanced than her incredibly aggressive international corporate competitors. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is option C. Remaining one step ahead means being slightly better prepared and significantly more advanced than her incredibly aggressive international corporate competitors. Recall the IELTS example of keeping a to-do list to stay one step ahead of any surprises. It is that active, anticipatory movement to beat the competition or the chaos.
And finally, question number 7. The enthusiastic designer definitely got carried away while decorating the massive new office, meaning he, option A, successfully completed the incredibly complicated architectural project significantly before the officially established strict deadline. Option B became excessively excited and completely went beyond what was originally considered professionally appropriate behavior. Or option C, intentionally ignored the highly specific aesthetic guidelines carefully provided by the senior. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The final answer is option B. To say he got carried away means he became excessively excited and completely went beyond what was originally considered professionally appropriate behavior. Just like when you mentioned you sometimes get carried away booking too many activities for a vacation trip. The enthusiasm acts like a current that takes over and pushes past the bounds of reason.
Nailed it. So what does this all mean? We have navigated through overloaded plates, shared boats, nautical horizons, and the physical contortions of workplace effort.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, You know, mastering these idioms isn't about memorizing a textbook. It completely changes how you are perceived in an English-speaking environment.
Right.
You transition from someone who just translates words literally into someone who truly speaks the cultural language. You signal to your peers that you understand the emotional weight, the history, and the shared imagery of the workplace.
It turns you from an outsider into an insider. So here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. Next time you hear a native speaker using an idiom, don't just scramble to translate the individual words in your head. Stop and ask yourself, what underlying physical action, historical reference, or deep human emotion is that phrase actually trying to capture? Once you see the image, you will never forget the phrase.